If a system never collapses, it's lying. That applies to mathematics, to governments. Not about what is seen, but about what is felt before seeing. Before light, before form, before narrative, there is perception. And perception is shaped in silence. The point 0/0 is that silence in its absolute state. Not emptiness, but potential. Not absence, but the moment before meaning collapses into form. As a creative director, my work is not to decorate ideas, but to architect transitions. From chaos to structure, from abstraction to experience, from complexity to clarity. I operate where disciplines usually fail to speak to one another. Mathematics, physics, art, ritual, technology, and human emotion. The so-called millennium problems are not puzzles waiting for clever answers. They are signals, boundaries where existing languages, scientific, mathematical, cultural, reach their expressive limits. My mission is not to solve them in isolation, but to translate their structure into spatial, visual, and experiential geometry. Where the world sees chaos, I see scene design. Where others see contradiction, I see tension and rhythm. Where a system collapses, I see the exact moment a new form becomes possible. Spectacle, in this context, is not excess. It is precision at scale. A way to make invisible structures emotionally legible. A way to let people feel limits before they are asked to understand them. This is not about answers. It is about alignment. When structure, sensation, and meaning converge, understanding stops being intellectual and becomes inevitable. 0/0 is not merely a coordinate, it is the state of absolute silence before the first creative decision is made. The moment before direction, before hierarchy, before form chooses meaning. The world today faces what are called the millennium problems. These are not isolated technical failures, nor are they abstract mathematical curiosities. They are crises of scale and crises of meaning, signals that our existing systems, languages, and frameworks can no longer fully describe The spectacle we are conceiving for 2028 is born from this logic. Its foundation is not symbolism added afterward, but a rigorous resolution of underlying tensions between data and emotion, mass and individual, order and emergence. Every spatial decision, every rhythm, every transition is the consequence of a system being brought back into balance. Where the crowd perceives noise, I design order. Where the public sees a stadium, I see a living data ecosystem waiting to be sculpted. Light, sound, movement, and human presence become variables in a single, integrated equation. This is not spectacle as distraction. It is spectacle as intelligible structure. A way to make complexity readable at human scale. A way to let millions feel, intuitively, what systems mean when they reach their limits, and what becomes possible when they are reimagined. The 0 point is where this begins. Not with answers, but with clarity. To understand the scale of America, one must study its silhouettes. The 0 point is where this begins. Not with answers, but with clarity. Not faces, not trends, silhouettes. Madonna, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Beyoncé, Taylor Swift, Rihanna, Billie Eilish, Dua Lipa, Miley Cyrus, Olivia Rodrigo, Doja Cat, Alicia Keys.
These women are not simply performers, they are archetypes of spatial occupation. They define how presence behaves when amplified to continental scale. Alongside them stand the masculine silhouettes that shaped, and continue to shape, the collective nervous system. Alongside them stand the masculine silhouettes that shaped, and continue to shape, the collective nervous system. Alongside them stand the masculine silhouettes that shaped, and continue to shape, the collective nervous system. Michael Jackson, Prince, Kendrick Lamar, Jay-Z, Bruno Mars, The Weeknd, Drake, Childish Gambino. They are not referenced as celebrities, they are treated as measurement systems. In my work, these figures, women and men, are used as perceptual units to test the psychological vacuum of stadiums. Their silhouettes become tools to measure distance, dominance, legibility, and emotional reach. This is how we determine whether a space can truly hold meaning for 80,000 people at once. If we can design light that coherently embraces the silhouette of Lady Gaga across a 100-meter field, if we can sustain tension around the stillness of Beyoncé, if we can preserve fragility at scale with Billie Eilish, if we can hold narrative density within the minimal contour of Kendrick Lamar, then we are no longer designing shows. We are engineering perception. This same framework extends deliberately to independent and ascending American artists, those who may not yet occupy stadiums but already shape the future grammar of presence. Their silhouettes are quieter but no less precise. They test intimacy, vulnerability, density without mass. And they remind us that Olympic spectacle is not only about scale, it is about truth at scale. Inside the laboratory of this vision, these artists are projected as colossal shadows, reduced to geometry, reduced to contour, reduced to presence. They operate as stress tests for the scenic architecture that follows. Phoebe Bridgers, Clyro, Mitski, Her. The Olympics demand more than entertainment. They demand a structure capable of holding history, plurality, contradiction, and aspiration simultaneously. For those who feel comfortable building another historic spectacle, for those who understand that culture is architecture and light is language, this is an open framework. When you can command silhouettes across generations, genders, and scales, you do not merely fill a stadium. The flame I direct is not made of combustion. It is made of frequency, light, and intention. It does not consume matter. It organizes meaning. This is not fandom. This is not branding. This is presence engineering. You make history perceptible. At the center of this vision burns the flame of America. But forget fire as you know it. The project that emerges after the turning of 2026 deliberately refuses the aesthetics of the new for novelty's sake. We reject innovation as ornament. We reject reinvention as performance. What we seek instead is the not new, that which feels eternal because it is structurally correct. America was never built from a single rhythm, a single language, or a single origin. It was built from collision, from overlapping pulses, from migration, displacement, survival, invention, resistance, and recomposition. Every rhythm that crossed this land left a trace, sonic, physical, emotional. What endures is not what surprises, it is what aligns. African rhythms carried through bodies that refused erasure. European structures imposed, adapted, fractured, and reassembled. Indigenous time, circular, territorial, cosmological, persisting beneath linear history. Latin cadence, Asian precision, Middle Eastern modality, Caribbean syncopation, industrial noise, gospel harmony, jazz fracture, hip-hop recursion, electronic abstraction. Every immigrant wave, every indigenous nation, every forgotten labor force, every frontier myth and urban reinvention, every state, every border, every contradiction. All of it belongs to the flame. Every immigrant wave, every indigenous nation, every forgotten labor force, every frontier myth and urban reinvention, every state, every border, every contradiction. The United States did not become a cultural pole by purity, but by density. By absorbing tension without collapsing, by allowing incompatible systems to coexist long enough to generate something new, not stylistically new, but structurally unprecedented. In Olympic Games 2028, the flame is not a symbol of dominance, it is a processor. The flame of 2028 is the convergence point between the analog and the digital, between breath and algorithm, between drum and data. It is human emotion translated into signal, and signal returned to human scale. LED becomes ritual, frequency becomes memory, precision becomes warmth. This is not a celebration of a single identity. It is an acknowledgement of a shared construction process, unfinished, imperfect, alive. No nostalgia, no futurism for its own sake, only structure refined to the point of inevitability. And when it rises in 2028, it will not declare that something new has begun. The flame of America does not ask to be admired, it asks to be felt. The opening of this space is not a show that begins and ends in a stadium. It is the activation of an area of resonance, a field where sound, light, movement, and presence allow millions to recognize themselves without explanation.
This channel, Eclectic S, is no longer a casual repository. It is now the persistent memory of my strategy. Nothing here is accidental. Every piece of equipment acquired. Every prime number calculated within my logistics. Every scene conceived, tested, refined. All of it is bound to a single, larger objective. The 2026 to 2028 project is not a promise. It is an execution already in motion. What you are witnessing is not speculation, nor anticipation, but alignment in real time. Memory, in this context, is not nostalgia. It is infrastructure. What persists is what has been structured to endure. Ideas fade. Concepts drift. Trends expire. But systems, when built with intention, continue to operate, even in silence.